To manage and organize your project, you can simply select everything you've done so far, pre-comp them, and call it, for example, Scene 1. Okay, this is our first scene. Next thing I want to do I make 2 circles. In first, the background is white. I make a mask here. Then lower it expansion. Add a keyframe to here, which is the start of the animation. And this is the end of it. Easy, isn't? Now let's check it out. Duplicate this layer and solo this one. Move backwards to see the next color. Press Ctrl-Shift-Y to open the solid settings. Now change its color to yellow. Go forward a bit. Move this layer. Then press U. Go a few frames forward. Forward again. Now duplicate it. The next color is green. Press Ctrl-Shift-Y and change the color to green. Unsolo the layer and check the results. Alright, now this is our new scene. It's not taking the whole screen, so I press U and then I change this to 920. It's still low, so I increase it to 95. I change these two as well. Okay, this is the new scene. That is our previous one. We don't need this layer from here. After Effects doesn't care about what is on the screen. It only considers the layer's time, meaning that a closed layer that still has some running time can affect your render. This effect can be seen on your render time. For example, if After Effects takes 2 minutes to render 1 second, the more layers you have open can increase this time exponentially. This can happen a lot, so pay attention to layers running time. After Effects doesn't care how many pixels are there on your screen, and it only counts the layers. Also, it only uses the current comp you're working with to render your project, your current comp and the layers inside it. We are finished with this layer, so I trim it from here. Okay, this whole scene is now a composition. Let's move to the next one. We have a plus sign here. Let's find it. Here it is. I unsolo it and move it here. It needs to be thicker. How do we fix that? First, convert it to shape using the Create Shape from Text option. Then delete the text. Let's edit this shape and try to recreate the plus in the video. I go a few frames forward. You can use the rulers to match it correctly. If you want to move a few layers together, you can select them and then move them together. Now what will you do if you wanted to, for example, scale these points together? I have selected 4 points and I want to scale them. What should I do? When you have your points selected, just double click on one of them to open this new transform. Now we can easily scale them. You will face problems when trying to animate a shape. For example, if you move this plus sign you've made and if your keyframes are still active, then you will make some new keyframes for position. But which one? Your layer or your shape? You can tell by their anchor point. If it looks like this, it's a layer, and if it was like this, it's a shape. The white anchor point belongs to a layer while the blue one is for a shape. Also, shape's anchor points is smaller. Another cue is that this line appears only when your shape transform is active. Notice how the box around the object changes when we choose the layer or the object. Sometimes you want to move the points and you don't want to add any keyframes to its position. Instead, you want to add keyframes to its path. You want to move like you've just moved them individually. We just want to move the points and not their positions. In order to add a keyframe to a point's path, just double click on it. This is the transform box that I told you. Now all the points are selected and we can move them. If you only click on one point, then that one point is selected. If you click on two, then two of them are selected. But if none of them are selected and you double click on any of them, then all the points get selected. Now if I add a keyframe to its path and then move the object, you can see that its path has been animated. But if I don't use the transform box and just move the object, there will be no keyframes on its path. This is an important tip. Let me tell you again. If we had this white box around the object's path will be animated. If the box was blue, then the layer's position, and if there was no blue or white box, then the position of the shape itself will be animated. Let's continue. How is the motion? We have some symbols that enter from the outside of the scene. The shapes doesn't have wiggle on them and are animated using their position. It's really simple, but it has some hidden techniques. Let's try to recreate them. Alright, let's get started. Always try to use the same color palette as the source. Increase the stroke size. The color differences you might see is because the low quality of the video, so just take them easy. Move the stroke above the fill. Change its size to 6. Or you can move its layer beneath the fill and change its size to 10. This plus sign has some well-rounded corners. So we do the same. Open the layers pass. You can use the round corner from the Add menu. Using it will round our corners. This option rounds every corner we have in our shape. Set it to 3. Or maybe 2. We can replicate the video by adding some points on the shape's path. I removed the third point. Because of its size, it can hardly be seen. The right corner is more round. I move its anchor point to its center. We have blue and green plus signs. I will make all of this inside one layer. The next one is orange. I set their anchor points inside them. You need to do it by hand. The script won't change the shape's anchor point. If you want to make your new shape inside the previous layer, the layer must be selected. I want to create all these shapes inside one layer. Round the strokes and move it beneath the fill layer. It is a bit too thick. Duplicate its path and move it here. Change its name and let's continue. I think we only have one equal sign. Let's speed up the process. Using title safe action, find the center. Then draw a circle in the center. Then remove its fill. It has a light stroke. So I open the stroke layer. Using the eyedropper, set its color. Okay, now we add dash. For now I will add 2 and then I will increase the gap and the dash parameters. Good. To see it better, I change its color for now. Then I will round their caps. I will increase the gap a little bit more. We want some space between them, so we can achieve the same result using the offset parameter. I need more space between the dashes. I will add another dash and will set it like this. Now we have this gap in between them. Duplicate this ellipse. Now go in the duplicate and add trim path. Change its endpoint so we only have one dashed line. Next, add a zigzag on top of it. Then further decrease the endpoint and also round the lines. Now let's get into the zigzag. Set the corner to smooth and increase it. Then parent its rotation to the other shape. Let's increase it from the expression. I tried different numbers, like plus 50, plus 100, plus 150, or plus 120. Better, now we just have to tweak it a bit. Good. Now, by rotating this, all the layers will rotate too. Check the video to see if the zigzag lines move as well. It doesn't end, so our line is ready. We better set its color now. I use a darker one. The only zigzag we have is for this dashed line in the center. We can simply match the rest of the lines. If you stay on only one frame of the video, you can simply use trim path and its start and end points to recreate this look. You should do this using end and start and not the dash offset. Also, their movement is a rotation. Let me ask you something. How do you think these signs enter the scene? We have a null in the center that's rotating and these are parented to it. You design everything in scene in only one frame and then add keyframes to them. Just like what we did with the puzzle pieces. Then adjust them using sequence layer. This way our null and signs are rotating and then the signs enter one by one. Pay attention that the signs are animated using only their position and not their scale. Also, when sequencing the layers, make it a bit more random. Alright, this scene is over too. Oh, and one more important thing. We can use an expression to make this rotate all the time. We could use a loop expression. In fact, we have 4 expressions that we can use for this purpose. One was ping pong. Next one is cycle. We have many loop expressions. One of them is continue. We animate it for a few frames. Let me show you how it's done. Add a keyframe to the end parameter of trim pass. Go 2 frames forward and add another keyframe. Then copy trim pass into this one. Press U and increase this to 100. Hide the video layer and open the background instead. Now let's check it out. Move the zigzag beneath the trim pass and check it again. That artifact happens because first it was trimmed and then we added zigzag. But now that we have moved the zigzag, first the line gets zigzagged and then it gets trimmed. The object hierarchy is very important. First, animate it. Then parent it to a null and rotate the null using its rotation in Transform tab. You can't use expressions now because it's not animated. So add a keyframe for example and then go into the expressions and add the loop out expression. But instead of cycle, use continue for it. And then delete the rest like so. Now the rotation continues forever. If we increase the distance between these 2 keyframes, the rotation is slower and vice versa. Also, if you want the rotation to be reversed, simply time reverse these keyframes. By moving these 2 keyframes closer or further, you have more control over the speed rather than using time expression. But if you use a time expression, you won't need any keyframes at all. I parented the zigzag rotation to the normal rotation, which I'm using the expressions on. Alright, let's continue. You don't even need any nulls. For example, if you have 4 circles with 4 different times and 4 different loop expressions, you can parent some of these shapes to one circle, some to another, and etc. This way, your motion will look more random. The rest of this scene is simple. You use excite and trim pass on some elements. for our previous scene. First, you make all the shapes. Then pull them out from the scene, and after that sequence their layers and randomize their timing so they don't enter the scene at once. Then you can parent them to different nodes with different speeds, or these circles. So you can do the rest on your own. As for the monitor, it's simple. You split this monitor, move it to another cup, and so on. Make sure to organize it correctly. We also have made those lights on a few lessons back. We recreated this spray can too. We used particular on this, so let's continue. Alright, let's get to this scene. Pay attention to this vase. This scene has too many details on it. How do you think this lightning was made? Look at their stroke. When the icon gets bigger, the stroke gets smaller, and vice versa. Make a new solid now. I set its size 500 by 500. It's big, but that's okay. I set its color to white. Hide it, and now draw a mask over it. The fill must be white and its stroke should be black. Now round the stroke. Set its position and then duplicate it. Flip it vertically to make the other one. No need to flip it now, just rotate this. Set its position and merge them. In order to get the pass right, duplicate this shape and remove pass 1 on this and pass 2 on this one. Now cut the merge pass and paste it here. Remove this merge pass too. Make sure to group all items. Then add fill and stroke. Make the stroke bigger and then round it. Now open the shapes. Set their anchor point so they get scaled from the center. Just one problem. How can we use excite on this scale? Make a new null. Zero out the null's position and then parent this scale to the null's position. Set the position to 100 and then parent the scale. But before that, let's check if we can add excite to the scale. Zero out the scale parameter. And from the motion tool, select excite. Now do the same thing for the second shape. Move the anchor point. Copy the second shape scale. Then paste it on the first shape. I think the problem happens because the anchor points are too far away. So I move them closer. And now it's fixed. Very good. To make this, you can use null to pass. It's simple. You draw a line with 5 points on it. Then give those points to a null. Next, you add dash to the lines, that is a stroke, and finally parent those nulls to the points. Now we just have to animate them. If you remember, I just made a mask and then we added a null to each point of that mask. This time we draw a shape and add a null to each point. And then parent the nulls to these points. What we get is a stroke with 5 points in which every point is parented to a null. Then if any nulls move, the points on this stroke will move too. Let's try to remake it. I make 5 new circles. Set your anchor point to the center. Now let's animate the first one. From here it will move down after 5 frames. Time reverse them and then add excite. If it's too slow, just close the gap between the keyframes. Now it's much better. Copy and paste this on the other circles too. Move them like this. Now draw a shape. Remove its fill. Choose Create Null from Pass and in this window, points follow nulls. Move the points like this. Now move the stroke below the other layers. Increase its size. Rounded caps and add a dash to it. Randomize the dash. Reduce the stroke bit. Set the gap to 20. Increase these two parameters. Sequence layer these 5 layers in 5 seconds. And now do the parenting. Parent the first null to the first shape, second null to the second shape, and so on. Also, don't forget to add excite to this layer. That's all to it. Hope you enjoyed it.